Prime Minister Mark Carney admitted that the Liberal government has to find ways to rein in its unsustainable federal spending during a cabinet planning session.
The Canada Border Services Agency is refusing to release data on how many international students and temporary foreign workers actually leave Canada once their visa permits expire.
2 Canadian senators who have been accused of wittingly aiding the Communist Party of China have launched a new non-profit to fight against what they call exclusion experienced by those accused of foreign government ties. Hello Canada, it's Friday, September 5th. This is the True North Daily Brief. I'm Cosmin, Dzsurdzsa.
And I'm Clayton, DeMaine.
We've got you covered with all the news you need to know. Let's discuss the top stories of the day and the True North exclusives you won't hear anywhere else. Prime Minister Mark Carney and Finance Minister Philippe Francois Champagne spoke ahead of a cabinet meeting admitting that the Liberals have to find ways to rein in unsustainable federal government spending. Liberal cabinet ministers are convening for the second day for a cabinet planning forum, which Carney promised would be focused on finding ways to spend less while also boosting investments. Carney did not specify whether any significant cuts to specific departments were forthcoming. The meeting comes as U.S. tariffs remain on select items such as Canadian steel and aluminum. Carney said Wednesday in Toronto that the cabinet meeting comes during, quote, challenging economic times due to the U.S.'s shifting global trade policy. He said, quote, we have a riskier global environment. We have changes in technology that bring both promise but also dislocation. And so the focus of the government from the start has been on what we can control. He said priorities during the meetings will include his Build Canada Homes plan to double the pace of home building over the next decade, infrastructure projects, and increase defense spending to meet NATO goals, all while making cuts to the federal budget.
The federal government has been growing spending as a whole at over 7% a year on average for over a decade. That's twice the rate of growth of the economy on average. It's not a sustainable situation. So we need to rein in spending. We need to find efficiencies.
Champagne also called the growth in Liberal government spending, quote, unsustainable on Thursday before Cabinet met for its second and last day.
The Prime Minister was right when he said over the last years you've seen an increase in spending of about 7%. That's not sustainable. Folks at home understand that. So folks at home have been tightening their belt for quite some time. They said, if I do it, the government has to do it as well. So having a leaner and more efficient government to provide services to Canadians, that is needed as you're looking to rebuild this nation for the 21st century.
I mean, this seems too little, too late. Spending has been out of control, especially since the pandemic. The Liberal government has ramped up spending to never before seen levels, outpacing even spending during major conflicts like World War I, World War II. Additionally, they have missed any sort of budget benchmarks or targets that they've set for themselves. So, Clayton, are Canadians to believe that federal spending just got away from them, as they seem to claim? And isn't this the same government who has run all of these deficits since it first came into office under former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau?
Well, exactly, Cosmin. This is the same Liberal government who's run deficits every year since 2015, and those have ranged from $1 billion to $40 billion. And, you know, that's resulted in the Liberal government spending over $53.8 billion on debt interest in this fiscal year, which massively exceeds spending on things like childcare benefits, and is $1 billion more than it spends on the Canada Health Transfer, which is how the federal government pays provinces to fund healthcare. But if you'll recall last year when Chrystia Freeland resigned, she was set to give her fall economic statement. And in that release, it was revealed that the Liberal government spent $61.9 billion on deficit spending. And with Freeland at the helm as finance minister and Mark Carney as the financial advisor to the Liberal Party, and that number was more than 50% higher than the $40 billion guardrail that Freeland herself put on the Liberal government for deficit spending for that year. Carney himself has pledged more deficit spending, and his plan for this year was to spend $486 billion, which, despite all the posturing as a fiscally conservative and experienced businessman, is more planned spending than what Trudeau's government was projected to spend in his final year. But the Liberals want Canadians to believe that this time it'll be different because Canadians should think of it not as spending, but as investments. Despite confirming it collects individual entry and exit information on all travelers, the Canada Border Services Agency is refusing to release data on how many international students and temporary foreign workers actually leave the country when their visa permits expire. In response to a True North inquiry, the CBSA confirmed it collects exit information at land and air border crossings. This data is used to confirm whether individuals remain in the country after their authorized stay ends. A CBSA spokesperson told True North the data is applied on a, quote, case-by-case basis to support immigration enforcement. However, quote, aggregate data on specific cohorts, including international students and temporary workers, is not available. The federal government, through Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, publishes detailed arrival numbers, but cannot tally how many temporary residents depart Canada once their visas expire. The CBSA stated its entry-exit system helps officers identify visa overstays, target enforcement, and track departures of high-risk people or goods. CBSA refused to disclose how many foreign students and workers left Canada in recent years. True North also asked the IRCC for exit data, but did not receive a response. So obviously there's a lot we won't know due to the tight-lipped border security and immigration agencies in Canada, but what do we know about the state of immigration right now? Like, what are the numbers and how many people can we confirm have overstayed their welcome in this country, Cosmin?
So yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a lot the federal government agencies aren't telling us. As you mentioned, the Canada Border Services Agency admits they do collect exit data on everybody coming in and out of the country. And that's obvious. If you've ever crossed the border or been to the airport, they know where you're going, how long you're staying, etc. But they refuse to release the big picture numbers when pressed on. So we don't actually know how many international students or temporary workers are leaving once their permits expire. But what we do know is this: immigration is at a record high, and it's still high. In just the first 4 months of 2025, over 807,000 newcomer applications were admitted. That breaks down to about 132,000 permanent residents and 200,000 study permits. And additionally, close to 500,000 work permits. So Statistics Canada estimates that almost 3 million people are in Canada right now on some kind of temporary status, which is up, way up from the numbers in 2016, which was around 750,000. So as for overstays, the government won't give a clear count. They themselves admitted that anywhere up to 500,000 people could be living here illegally after their visa expired. And we've also learned there are at least 600 convicted foreign criminals still at large in Canada. So essentially, the bottom line is the government's betting on over 1 million temporary residents voluntarily packing up and leaving over the next couple of years. But there's very little evidence that's actually happening, and the agencies won't release the numbers that would prove it. So unless there's a push within the government to get these numbers out, they're not very forthcoming with the media, obviously, and with the ATIP process, the access to information process, is one avenue, but it's been so delayed, and the information they usually give isn't the full picture. So there definitely needs to come some internal pressure, hopefully from the Conservatives, but we have yet to see anything like that. I personally would like to see if they're even tracking or if they have just simply estimates, because at this point, we can only guess. Facing allegations of foreign interference on behalf of the People's Republic of China, 2 Canadian senators have launched a new organization to fight against what they call the exclusion experienced by those accused of foreign government ties. Senators Yuan Pao Wu and Victor O, along with others, James Ho and David Tam, have announced the launch of a new nonprofit organization, Canadians United Against Modern Exclusion. Wu and O were among 5 elected officials named by journalist Sam Cooper as allegedly being the unidentified elected officials mentioned in a foreign interference report for, quote, wittingly working in favor of the Chinese Communist Party. Wu has denied the allegations, though O has not made any public statements rejecting the accusations and did not respond when asked by True North last October. O visited China several times to meet with PRC officials through the Canada-China Legislative Association to promote the sharing of information and deepening relationships between the 2 countries. The controversial trip to China included interim NDP leader Don Davies and former MP Han Dong, who resigned in March 2023 following media reports of alleged connections to the CCP. The new entity set up by the senators and others is billed as a nonpartisan group bent on defending Canadians whose rights and freedoms are allegedly compromised by, quote, false or exaggerated claims of foreign interference. Wu told True North that rights are violated, quote, if they are accused of foreign interference simply because of the views they hold or the groups or people they associate with. The group warns that by accusing someone of acting on behalf of a foreign entity, quote, simply because of their ties to foreign entities such as the PRC, Canadians are excluding the accused and engaging in racism. So, Clayton, you wrote this article. What is this group intending to actually do? What are some of the things that it's posted on its website or said during the, revealing press conference by its founders?
Right. So the group is supposed to document foreign interference and national security threat accusations, which they say are just cloaked charter rights and freedoms abuses. Defend those accused of foreign interference, educate people on this new form of racism they're labeling as exclusion, and to advocate for policy changes when it comes to national security and foreign interference. But some of what the group said is quite rich. They said accusing people based on their ties with the People's Republic of China is actually xenophobia and racism. And they say that this form of racism could lead to unfair prosecutions and stigmatization of those people with ties to the Chinese regime. And, that people shouldn't be presumed to be disloyal for trying to, quote, improve relations with the PRC or for denying that China poses any threat to Canadian society. They also accused police, national security, and intelligence agencies of taking cues from the political class and suppressing Canadians' rights and freedoms with these accusations. And I asked Wu, though, about what he and the group mean by ties to the PRC. It's mentioned like 5 times on the website in the summary page. And, if he or the other members or the founders happen to be one of these individuals with ties to the regime that they mentioned so much on the website. And Wu told True North that each of the founding directors are, quote, longtime Canadians who are committed to the betterment of our country. And when asked whether the group had ties to the PRC, he said, quote, we are ethnic Chinese who are part of a diverse global Chinese community with ties to many different parts of the world. So obviously skirting the question of whether they themselves had ties to the People's Republic of China.
That's it for today, folks. Thanks for tuning in. You can stay on top of new episodes every weekday by subscribing to the Daily Brief on iTunes and Spotify. Also, while you're at it, make sure to hit us with a 5-star rating and please leave a review.